It is 11 at night and money has gone missing from your account. You open your bank's app and start typing. Something answers in 4 seconds. It is polite, it is fast, it knows your balance, and it never once sleeps. At the top of the window, it calls itself your virtual assistant. Nowhere does it say what it actually is. Here is what changed. On the 2nd of August this year, a rule switched on across the European Union that turns that missing line into a legal question, not a question of manners. And it carries a number, up to 15 million euro, or 3% of total worldwide annual turnover, whichever is higher. So 3 things by the end: what the law actually demands, the 4 cheap disclosures that do not count, and who inside the bank really owes the duty, because it is probably not who you think. So, first principles. Strip the regulation away, and one question is left. Does the person on the other end know they are talking to a machine? That is the whole of it. Article 50 says providers must design systems that interact directly with people, so that those people are informed they are interacting with an AI system, unless it is obvious from the point of view of a reasonably well-informed, observant, and circumspect person. And that word, obvious, is where the entire fight lives. 2 practical points before that fight. First, timing. A separate paragraph, Article 55, says the information must arrive in a clear and distinguishable manner, at the latest at the time of the first interaction, not on request, not after the complaint. First contact. Second, form. The law does not order you to use a banner or a spoken line or an icon. It is written as an outcome, not a template, which sounds generous right up until you see what the Commission says does not count. Here is what a smart, busy banker assumes at this point. Come on. It is 2026. Everybody knows the thing answering at 11 at night is a bot. It is obvious, so the exception covers us. The Commission closed that door in July. Its guidance says the exception should be interpreted restrictively because it takes away a person's right to be told. And then comes the sentence that does the damage. General awareness that AI systems exist does not imply that people recognize them in interactions. Knowing that bots exist is not the same as knowing that this one is a bot. So what does not count? The Commission's guidance names them, and every one is the cheap option. A disclosure that lives only in the terms and conditions, a URL, or the documentation. A machine-readable marking the user cannot perceive at the point of interaction. Unclear signals, and it picks one out by name. A generic reference to an assistant. And the blanket line. Services on this website use AI. Each of those is listed as insufficient when it stands alone. Now the part that reads as if it were written for this industry. The same guidance flags settings where people run an increased risk of being misled, and it names 3. Financial advice, insurance, complaints handling. Read that list again. That is not the marketing bot on the mortgage landing page. That is a machine talking to a customer at 11 at night about money that has gone missing. In settings like those, one notice at the start is likely not enough, and the guidance says periodic reminders and context-aware disclosure are likely to be necessary. Get this wrong and the finding lands on your desk. So whose duty is it? Here is the second assumption worth killing. Article 51 does not bind everyone who runs a chatbot. It binds providers. A bank that simply uses a vendor's system the way the vendor supplies it is a deployer, and the disclosure duty sits with the vendor. But provider catches far more than the people who write the code. If you had the system developed for you, and you put it into service under your own name or your own trademark, you are the provider. The Commission spells out that exact case. An organization that develops a chatbot in-house and puts it into service under its own name is a provider. Now look at the bank assistants you know. Whose name is on them? One honest caveat, because the line is narrower than the panic around it. If a human being is still doing the talking and simply uses an AI tool to help draft the reply, the guidance treats that as something other than direct interaction. So this duty does not bite. The rule is about the machine facing the customer, not the machine helping the colleague. Write that distinction down, because it is the difference between one project and 20. Now the timing, and it runs backwards to the way most teams planned it. Most teams are waiting for the big high-risk obligations. The digital omnibus moved those to December 2027 for the Annex 3 systems, which is where credit scoring sits, and to August 2028 for the rest. The transparency chapter was not moved at all. There is exactly one transition to December this year, and it is narrow. It covers only the marking of AI-generated content, and only for systems already on the market before August. The chatbot duty got no grace period whatsoever. The rule everyone is waiting for is 16 months away. The one that is already live arrived on Sunday. And in Germany, somebody is now holding the other end of it. On the 29th of July, 5 days before the rule applied, the German Implementing Act came into force. It does not restate the chatbot duty, and it never uses the word chatbot. It does something more practical. It says who watches. For AI used in direct connection with a regulated financial activity, at supervised firms, that is BaFin. BaFin's own words that day: transparency duties for AI systems that interact directly with people, such as chatbots in customer communication. And its Director General for Cyber Risk drew one careful line. The mandate of the AI regulation, he said, is not supervision. It is surveillance. So 3 rules teams put around a customer-facing bot. 1. Disclose at first contact, inside the window where the conversation actually happens, not in a document nobody opens. 2. Say what it is, not what it feels like. Assistant is a personality. Machine is a fact, and the guidance says the personality word on its own is not enough. 3. Write down once for every bot you run, whether you are the provider or the deployer, and keep the contract that proves it. That single sheet of paper is what decides whose 15 million it is. So rewind to 11 at night. The customer types, the box answers in 4 seconds, and it calls itself a virtual assistant. Under the rule that is now live, that label on its own does not answer the question the law asks. And notice what the question is not. It is not whether the machine was any good. It was. It is whether the person could tell. Article 50 is one of the smallest obligations in the entire AI Act, and right now it is one of the very few that is actually switched on. The free Reg AI brief newsletter goes out to risk, compliance, model governance, and audit people working on exactly this. Link below.